Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, the Executive Director of Rock Solid Families.
And I'm Merrill Hutchinson, President of Rock Solid Families. And we are excited to have you join us as we talk all things faith, family, and fitness. A special thanks to Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency for their support of Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community one family at a time. Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. Hi, I'm Merrill Hutchinson, and I am here today with my most wonderful, beautiful wife, Linda Hutchinson. How are you today, babe?
Good. What are we talking about today?
Oh, today is all about investment versus return.
Why do you say it like that? It sounds like
I don't know, because we don't know anything about money, so we're kind of in trouble.
Yeah, and
this will be a short show today.
If you thought we were talking about money, this is not a budget show, thank
No.
goodness, because that is definitely not our strength. So you definitely picked the wrong person for the show if that was the case.
No, but it is, the idea here is, and in some way we're going to even be talking about being rich, living rich, but it's going to be talking more about what you invest in and what you get out of that. And there will be a little bit of money talk.
Yeah.
But man, we're going to go way outside of the money realm today, aren't we?
Yeah, for sure. So this is an important show because there are so many folks, I think, listening right now that would say, I don't have a whole lot to give. You know, I'm kind of spent in a lot of areas. And so we've got a lot of people that walk in our doors really struggling and really looking for some hope and some help. And so we think this show is going to be really important. So we hope you'll stick around for it.
Yeah, very good, very good. So, you know, hon, this show reminds me a little bit of the parable of the talents. The parable of the talents,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes we think that talents almost being, we think of talents as gifts and stuff that we have, but also we could be thinking about money that we have. And in that story, basically, one guy given 5 talents, he comes back, he doubles them. Another one, 2 talents, he comes back, he doubles them. And one has 1 talent, and he puts it in the safest place he thinks it to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And and you use a word here, exponential growth. God doesn't want us to remain the same. He does want us to grow. He wants us to become rich.
Yeah.
But he wants to become rich in what he believes is valuable.
Sure. So we're going to be talking about that today, and you might be surprised how to get the greatest return in all of the areas of your life, and how to find that peace and that joy. But before we do, babe, we better thank some sponsors.
We better do that. All right. So we want to thank Maxwell Construction for being a strong supporter of Rock Solid Radio. We are so thankful for their support. They have been a part of our community and investing in strong and healthy families since the beginning. Maxwell Construction was founded in 1988 by John Maxwell. Since that time, Maxwell Construction has grown and expanded to become among the most recognized commercial construction companies in the tri-state area. So for any of your construction commercial needs, contact Maxwell Construction today at 812-537-2200.
We also want to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency. It began in 1981 by Jim Mansfield and is dedicated to serving individuals and businesses in Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. So if you have any kind of insurance need, call Mansfield Insurance Agency today at 1-800-230-3927.
All right, very good. Also, we do want to talk about some things that are coming up here. Man, the weather's getting cold. It's getting dark out.
Especially for
the time's going to be changing soon.
Yeah, as we're recording this, our daughter-in-law just moved from Hawaii with her 3 little ones, and our grandkids
Welcome to Indiana.
Our grandkids do not even own like pair of pants and jackets, and they don't even understand what these things are.
They're still running around in flip-flops.
Yeah, they don't even know how to put them
out.
on. So it's so cute. God love them. I just bought this little flannel, this fleece flannel, and
like a CPO jacket.
Oh, whatever. You and your family talking about that the other night. But no, I'm calling it their Indiana jacket. So when they come to Indiana, they'll
Get
need
some
those.
flannel.
So yeah,
Force the flannel.
But seriously, speaking of financial investments, we're talking about something different today. But if you tuned in thinking we were talking about finances, we strongly encourage you to go back into our Rock Solid Radio library back to August of 2019, hon. We did a 2-part series with a Christian financial advisor, Mike Dusold, that really helped walk through this, how to have financial peace. And so we hope that you'll go back and check that out. It's not our focus this week, but there is help out there, good Christian financial help.
Yeah. So let's move into topic. You ready to get into
Yes,
topic?
yes.
Okay, so I think initial glance, if you're just listening to this, you might think, okay, so Rock Solid Radio, we usually talk a lot about families, marriages, and that kind of thing. And so to start off, I'm going to ask you the question, why are we talking about investments today, hon?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely an upside down model. And, the more that we've seen this growing up in our home, we kind of saw this. This is how our parents raised us. But unfortunately, that's not really the way families are raising their children anymore. And that's not what they're seeing modeled. So, you and I, we kind of learn these principles also in a really intense 30-week Bible study that we did with a group of church. We called Huddle.
Yeah.
And it was learning different tools and leadership skills, and it was awesome. And one of the things was this upside down model that we're going to be talking about tonight, and really how we should invest our time and our talents and our treasures the way God says. And obviously, hon, it's radically different than what the world says it should be.
So, yeah, and again, as you come to find out more and more in the type of topics that we discuss and the Christian faith, it tends to be very contrary to the ways that the world kind of finds us and pushes us towards living. And I think the first time I saw this when I went through our huddle instruction was as soon as you saw it, you went, oh, yeah, that does make sense. But it was weird how my brain naturally had it upside down.
Yeah.
Like oh no,
Yeah.
And so really, we do want you to look at it because we are going to be talking about investment, but it's not going to be just about money stuff. It's going to be investing everything that you are and what the most important things are that you invest.
Well, hon, and as I was preparing for the show, I was thinking back to one woman that I worked with not too long ago. It was right at the beginning of COVID, and she came to me literally empty. And hon, she was ready to end it. And she didn't even know where to begin. She was so overwhelmed with everything going on, finances, relationships, her health, her relationship with God. All of that was in her mind empty. And it was really kind of crazy how we walked through some of these steps that we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
I actually used this model with her. And hon, just recently, she shared with me an email that really shared with me how she dug out of that hole and how she used what valuable few resources she had and where she invested them and how that exponentially changed her life. And so I'm going to kind of use her a little bit as we go, but it really was a reminder to me that, man, the world would say, just give up.
Yeah.
Or focus on these things. And we totally did that opposite of what she would have thought we should have focused on. And man, now she would say every area of her life is running on all cylinders because she did this upside down model.
Right. So, and it's, we've done shows before about how things get out of balance.
Yes.
They kind of get out of whack. And that happens due to what we allow to come in and influence and use our time and use our resources. So we want to first, let's talk about how do we go about investing, and when I say investing, into our life and to get a better life. All right. So when somebody's depressed, it usually is their whole life that they have a very difficult time seeing a brightness in any part of their life, especially when we get to the point where we see people who are suicidal.
Right.
And when you say, well, what's good in your life? We will get answers like, there's nothing good.
Yeah.
There's nothing good. And so we want to be very careful first to talk about, well, let's look at the different areas of your life.
Yeah, hon, and let's remind everybody out here, we're not talking about, when we say investment, we're not talking about the amount of dollars that you spend. I mean, even though that is a little part of it, but it's definitely just a little teeny part of it. And let's face it, there are more and more people who are investing in the world's model, and they are at their breaking point. They may be multimillionaires, and they've given and given and given to the point where it's cost them their health, their marriage, their mental health, their children, their freedom, their identity. And after all of that, they're not reaping the rewards that they thought were promised to them, right? And so they literally feel like they've bought into a lie, or it's not even worth fighting for anymore.
Yeah.
So. We're going to get super practical now, though.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So we want to get really practical. So I really encourage you, if you're listening and you're not driving, if you're driving, don't do this. But if you're not driving, I would love for you to get a piece of paper out, because I would love for you to follow along with us, hun, and write down these different areas that we're talking about. And as we write them down and describe them, I literally want you, because this is how I model it in my office here, I want you to rate how satisfied you are in this area of your life on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being I am miserable, or 0, I'm ready to give up. 10 being I'm killing it. This is awesome. Okay. So I really want you to give yourself a number, a satisfaction number. And we're going to do that first. And so I really kind of want you to see about where's the squeaky wheels, hun? Really, what is the thing that is really feeling good in your life, but then maybe the things that are miserable?
Yeah. Yeah. So you want to go through the categories?
Yeah. So let's start with number 1. And really, this is a lot of times people's number 1 thinking like, if I get this right, I'm going to be happy. Mm-hmm. And honestly, this is really the lowest on the totem pole in this upside down model. Mm-hmm. So let's do the first one.
So the first one, and just getting it right, when I want to rank myself, like you said, on this 1 to 10, I think the first thing there, and I'm going to say this because everybody looks at money a little bit differently in terms of security and that kinds of thing. We've joked about before. My dad's never really had a savings account and budget and that kind of thing, but he never really felt the need to.
Right.
So it wasn't like he was unhappy for
Right.
it. So I think a lot of it is dealing with your own desire and your comfort level.
So what's the name of the category?
So it's your financial life.
Yeah, your financial life.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so in the financial life, just whether you do have a budget or income or savings, retirements, how you're dealing with giving and tithing, those kind of things. So when you look at that whole financial life, how would you rank yourself? How would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10?
Again, it's not the number of dollars in your bank account. That's
right.
what we're talking
It's not about the money.
It's how satisfied you are in this area. And Jesus talked a lot about money, not because it should be number 1, but because he knew how important it was in so many people's life. So even going back in the Bible times, hon, one of the angriest sessions was recorded in the Bible was Jesus getting angry and overturning the tables in the temple because they were buying and selling. And so he just didn't like how money had ranked in people's lives.
How about, hun, in people's professional life?
Okay, so that's number 2.
Right.
Write that down, professional life. Tell us a little bit about what you mean by that.
So in your professional life, the idea of just your purpose in your career, like what you do for a living. And, we find this a lot, really in all age groups, but this is always a huge pivot point for those kids who are coming out of high school and into college.
Yeah.
And they get this training, but they're like, I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
And they get a lot of confusion. And so professionally, they know how important this is. Mm-hmm. You realize you're going to be locked in this for the next 30, 40 years. So it better be something of value to you. Okay.
Right.
And so professionally, how are you doing in your career? And again, I talked about that younger age group, but hun, we run into people all the time in their 40s and 50s and even 60s that are at a crossroads in their career purpose and just how satisfying it is.
Yeah, I mean, has your job stolen your joy or sucked the life out of you? I mean, hun, you and I have worked for nonprofits our entire life, the school, the church, and so our future has never looked like we're going to be like multimillionaires.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that
now
we
you
haven't...
break the news to me. That's great. Wow.
But it's never meant that we were unsatisfied in our careers. I mean, I've wanted to be a teacher since I was a little kid. So I was able to fill my dream. And so I feel like in satisfaction level, professionally, I have been really satisfied with my career all my life, never being rich, but definitely rich in other areas.
Right.
So
Right.
So what's the next one?
So our next area for you to write down is your intellectual life, okay? Your intellectual life in terms of how you're learning and growing and just exploring. I think probably 20 years ago, we really started to hear the phrase a lot. Are you setting yourself up to be a lifelong learner?
Yeah.
And the idea that, once you learn a skill or trade, you get to a certain level of mastery, and you're done. You're done. And those days are gone, and that's a good thing because that's how we continue to grow. And I know we joke and tease all the time about how computers and technology continue to throw, a curveball at us, but it is part of our intellectual growth of going, okay, I need to sit down, I need to figure this out, and I need to become as comfortable and useful with it as I can. So that's just that growth of expanding. It also, it seems to be a common thing for high school and college kids to say, well, I'm going to go to school. But what about, when we do get into our 40s and 50s, are we pursuing actively the growth? And that maybe it means taking a class, maybe it means getting a degree, or maybe it just means that you set up, like, honey, the amount of reading and listening that we do on things that we want to expand ourselves on. There's not a day that goes by where I'm not listening to something through podcast or shows, or you're not doing something like that.
I was on the 5-year plan with my master's. I didn't get my master's till I was 42. I was under 3
I
catalogs.
packed 4 years of an undergrad into 5. That was tough.
But some people would say in intellectual life that the satisfaction comes when how many letters you have behind your name. And I just think that's, maybe what the world says, but it's definitely not what God says. But we do need to be lifelong learners. So how satisfied are you in the intellectual life? And the fourth one that the world says is the priority is your recreation life. Like, how much fun can you have, right?
No, I think this is a very important one.
The man who wants to buy another bike. That's what.
Yes, recreation. I think is well, I think for all of us, and we tease sometimes. Your brother and I were talking the other day, and we talked about what we do when we get out of work. And he knows that I enjoy riding bikes and being outside, doing that kind of stuff. And I was asking him, and he's like, I've always struggled, but for recreation, I like to do what I actually do for a living, real estate stuff. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's just when it's kind of a stress pot and it creates more angst and darkness in you, then you go, okay, wait, I need even a break from that.
Right.
And that can even be with your hobbies. I mean,
sure.
We've had before our hobbies start to own us.
Yeah. So, I mean, the key is, how satisfied are you in this area? Do you feel like you have margin in your day? Do you feel like you have time to relax? So those 4 things are, maybe you're on the higher end. Maybe you're really satisfied in how much money you make, or, professionally in your career. And maybe you have that new boat or vacation home, and you may have that killer career and you're climbing the corporate ladder. Or maybe you're on the other extreme and those areas are suffering and you're not happy with any of them. And you feel like you've invested and poured a lot of yourself. Hun, when I think of these top 4 we're talking about that really are the bottom 4, but the world would say the top. I think of Jeremiah 2:13, where Jeremiah is telling the people of Israel, my people have committed 2 sins. They have forsaken me, the spring of living water. Actually, God is saying this, the spring of living water, and have dug their own cisterns, broken cisterns that cannot hold water. And so, hun, the 4 things we just described would be what the world would say we need to invest our time and our talent and our treasures in. But honestly, hun, that is not going to satisfy. Those are not going to bring us joy. Your earning potential, climbing the corporate ladder, putting more letters behind your name, how big and shiny your car is, what country club you belong to, hun, they are all broken cisterns, and they're not going to satisfy.
Hun, the confusing part, I think, is they temporarily create satisfaction in a moment, in a season, and that's what can be misleading. Like, if I just had this,
right.
If I just got this, if I just reached this level, and it can become so narrow focused. And I think that's the very risky thinking that we want to arrest right now and think, okay, we're not, this show today is not teaching you about day trading.
Yes, exactly, because that would not be our gift.
This is not about day trading. This is about what do you need to do for the long haul. Because, we are at the age now, hun, where we have probably more years behind us than we have in front of us.
Speak for yourself.
Let's just be very honest in today's show, honey.
You're right.
And so because of that, you start to measure this thing called life satisfaction. Has it been worth it kind of thing? And that's what gets to this word of contentment.
Yeah.
So let's move on.
Yeah. What's funny, hon, is at church, they were talking about that just recently. And man, I just welled up because we're not only sitting there in a beautiful church that is warm and comfortable, but we're sitting and surrounded by our family and friends and thinking of just God, how good God has been. And so, as we progress up this ladder, things should get more and more important. And hon, these next 4 areas should be our greatest focus. And honestly, they're going to give us the greatest return on their investment. Actually, the world would say the opposite. But as a matter of fact, the world would say these are the things that you don't have time for. If you want success in the 4 we just mentioned, you're going to need a sacrifice in these next 4. And we're here to say we completely disagree. And we think these are going to be even more critical. With more and more stuff, I think people are less and less content.
I think it's important, too, hon, that not just do we say that we disagree. All the research shows that life satisfaction.
Secular research, by the way.
Even secular research starts to dig down deep and say the next 4 things that we're going to talk about. If you do not have these next 4 things right, or you're not able to score in the higher side of the scoring chart, you're not going to be reaching the level of contentment and happiness in your life. So please hear about the first ones: financial, professional, intellectual, and recreational. Did we say those aren't important? No, they are important, okay? But they are not the most important.
Yeah. So the next one we're going to talk about is your physical life. How satisfied are you with your exercise, your sleep pattern, your eating, your energy level? What's one of the first things, hon, that goes when you're stressed out at work? Sleep. People stay up way too late to do their job, or they skip lunch because they don't have time, or they're not working out. I mean, I know for me personally, when I was teaching and I was a young mom, that was the first thing that went. And honestly, hon, the woman that I was talking about before, who was really contemplating suicide, she had really stopped taking care of herself because she had a little one, and COVID hit, and she had this isolation feeling of I'm all alone in this, and she really let go of these areas that really were key in her mental health.
Yeah, you have heard many times before the idea that if you don't have your health, you don't have anything, and that's not quite true, but that is definitely a big statement, because your body, or the health of your body, is your temple. It is the vehicle that allows you to do so many other things, whether it's how well your brain's working, how well your body's working. And I hate to admit this, but this has definitely been more of a challenge for me in the last 10 years. A lot of my life value came from how well I was able to get out and move and do things. And as I've seen that become more and more restricted,
as your joints start falling apart,
my joints start falling apart, it is harder for me to just say, okay, wait, what do I need to do here to keep the body running and going? And again, it's not the end all be all, but it is something that if and I think about this, the people with chronic pain. If you don't feel good, it's hard to be good.
It's tough. And it's very tied to the next one. So how are you ranking yourself in your satisfaction of your physical life? Also is probably really tied closely to your emotional life. And we just did a show on this, hon. It's a critical component, our mental health. How stable are you on your feet? Are you harboring unforgiveness and anger towards someone? How satisfied are you with your emotional health? How much time and energy do you have, hon? Those are all things, man. And sometimes it is connected. Your knee has caused you more mental stress.
Oh, yeah.
Because you couldn't run. You can't go on your bike. You're not working out well. It's just hard.
Yeah. And so when we talk about emotional life, that I want to use a phrase that I often use when I'm talking to people about anxiety and depression, about how strong or stable you feel. When you are extremely stressed out and then another thing hits you, you're like, I can't handle
like
another
COVID.
thing.
Yeah.
And that's what we have talked about with COVID. And so the emotional stress level has already broken us down, so we don't handle things as well. On the other hand, when I'm emotionally strong, when I'm in a good place, you can hit me with a whole lot more, and I can go, well, this isn't great, but bring it on.
Right. And that includes work. Yeah. That includes, stress at home with the kids. So, hon, those six that we just described, I don't think compare to the last two. And so we definitely got to give ourselves time for the last two. And I think this next one is one of the greatest underestimated investments we can make is our relational capital, people. So relational life would be the next one to write down. How satisfied are you with the relationships around you? Are you taking time to call your mom and dad? Have you called your dad lately? Actually, your dad was just over the house last night. God love him. Do you make time to sit down with your spouse every day? We say 15 minutes a day is your check-in.
That's your minimum. That's your vitamin.
Yeah. I mean, do you take and sit down face to face, not texting, not sitting there watching TV? Do you make time for your friends and coworkers? Hun, a small group. We used to lead a small group, and that has been one thing that, it's been really tough for us in our profession to have time for.
When we talk about relational life, too, I think it's very important to be clear. These are not acquaintances necessarily. I mean, gosh, hun, in our world, we've had lots and lots and lots of different acquaintances. Those aren't necessarily relationships. Okay, those are
hi, how are you doing kind of thing.
We don't want to minimize those. Those just happen. But relational means all of a sudden the people that I'm going to give permission to weigh in on my life, and they give me permission to weigh in on their life. That is something that can possibly create tension and hurt, but it can possibly create growth and love.
Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, and so relational life. If you look around, hon, I see this a lot with men, myself included. I think men struggle with meaningful relationships differently than women do, and that men will get to a certain age, maybe in their 40s or 50s, and they'll say, I really don't have many friends.
I just actually have a lot of couples that say that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of do my own thing, and not that they are like terrible, mean people or anything.
Right.
They just sort of withdraw. They don't want to bother anyone. They don't want to be bothered, and they withdraw. And they'll have a very limited relationship life. And I think, as you just talked about before, hon, the idea of iron sharpens iron. I mean, one of the cool things about our strong dance class that we run into is, if
Strong Dad Saturdays.
Strong Dad
8 to 9:30
Saturday
a.m.
comes in, and we are an ornery, fun group.
It's scary
of guys.
when I'm in the room doing something else, another room, hearing just you guys yell and banter back and forth.
But having fun, and each one of those guys with each week, you feel more and more connected to the point where all of a sudden you go, why isn't so-and-so here? What's going on, man?
Exactly. They're calling them up.
Yeah. What are you doing? Hey, you're supposed to be here. And that's all of a sudden where you starting to see depth of relationship that is important. These become your teammates.
Yeah. And hun, in a time of COVID, there's been so many people that have felt isolated, and it's time to reconnect. Even if it's through FaceTime, you've got to reconnect with people. That's what brings you joy, And so sometimes it's just easier. And that's what happened with this young mom, is that she got disconnected to the very people that were breathing life into her and really encouraging her. And she got to get back to that. It was really hard without that. So that's like I said, that's one of those greatest investments, is that relational capital. And so I really encourage you, if you're not satisfied in that area, man, let's focus on that, because that will bring you great return on a lot of the other areas.
So, hon, let's culminate here with the greatest of all.
Yep. What the world would say would probably be the least.
And many actually totally deny the even reasoning and purpose for it. But the greatest of all is this last one. And even number 7, relational life, can actually fool you into thinking you don't need this number 8.
That's true.
Okay,
That's true.
Man, I got buddies, I got friends. I mean, it's great, and there is value in some of that. But number 8 here is spiritual life. Yep, spiritual life, and again, in its own way, this is very much also part of relation with Christ.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, relation with Christ. This goes beyond also, and we want to be clear and careful here. This goes beyond checking a box about whether I went to
church Sunday, check.
Yeah, because that can be a very empty practice. I also brush my teeth every day, but I don't really find that to be very spiritually lifting. Okay,
or rewarding. Yeah. So, are you living an obedient life that would please the Lord, or is it easier to turn a blind eye? Are you putting your head down and just going to work and grinding it out day after day, hoping that somehow it's all going to bring you joy? I go back to that, Jeremiah 2:13, that says that it's a broken cistern. It leaks. And so these cisterns that you're putting your time and energy into, they can't hold water. And so Jesus says he is the living water, and anyone who drinks of him will never be thirsty again. And there's a lot of people out there, and if you're listening right now and you're feeling just thirsty, you are hungry and thirsty for something bigger than what you got, and you think it's something in your bank account or at work, or, a bigger house. It's not. That is not going to satisfy.
Yeah. The challenge here, guys, is the world will very much take all of these 8 that we just went through, and they will separate them. They will break them apart, and you will get specialists and professionals and doctors and advisors that are really big in one area.
Right.
And we're not discrediting any
of them,
okay?
no.
Because we use those folks,
Right.
financial advisors and doctors and all of these kinds of things. But the important part is to not allow yourself to be wrapped up in the worldly, secular thinking, even the scientific thinking of thinking, if I just get this done, things will be great. The whole thing has to be rolled together, and it gives us the spiritual purpose. And what is spiritual purpose? Spiritual purpose is your connection to God.
Why are you here?
Yes, your connection to God.
Yeah.
And so when you start to realize that you have a connection to God, it creates an entire different motivation for why you get out of bed.
I think you called it a paradigm shift.
It's a paradigm shift, yeah. And so why I get out of bed, how I'm going to spend my money, how I'm going to take care of my body, how I'm going to take care of my relationships. All of these things start to come together and look completely differently when I do it under the eyes of God.
Yeah. So do you only have so much energy to give? Because I hear a lot of people say, I don't have anything left. I had one recently just say, I'm so tired. Like he's done. So invest in something that's going to give you the greatest return. Invest in spiritual capital. The stronger your relationship with God is, again, like you said, it's not going to church, checking the box.
Right.
It's that relationship, that intimacy. The more full and satisfied the other areas of your life are going to be. And that's what this young client was telling me in her email was, wow, I kind of did that paradigm shift. I focused back on the things that were important. I got those back in a role, in the right role, in the right priority. So those are the things that are going to make your life full. And then the second one, is that relational capital. And go out and serve someone. Love your family well. Invest in people. Forgive those who've wronged you. And you're going to see the other areas of your life grow as well. That's how God works. He brings fruit out of the seeds we sow and to grow things his way.
Man, that's so good. Hannah, I want to make a comment here about how can I see whether somebody is strong in a given area, those 8 different areas. How can I see whether they're strong in an area or weak in an area? And ultimately, I can go down and I can look through a lot of those, obviously, physically and emotionally and financially. You can kind of get indicators oftentimes just by looking at people and observing their life. But I think spiritual is kind of weird in that a lot of us grew up with practices of your spiritual life is private. It's between you and God. And I want to caution that because if your spiritual life is healthy, you can't wait to show it off. And I don't mean to show
Share
off
it.
but to share what you have. If you had a relationship with somebody, if you were so proud and happy about getting ready to marry somebody, you wouldn't say, well, I don't want anybody to meet who I'm going to marry.
I don't need to know I love them.
I don't want to know, it's my business.
Good point.
No, you would be out there ready to share it. And I think if you truly are proud of what God has done to you and the relationship that you're seeking there and what it has done for you as a person, you can't wait to share it. I mean, and that's what we're called to do. Keeping that private, I question that. Why don't you ever bring your boyfriend around the house to meet the family?
Right.
Okay?
Right.
There's a problem there.
Yeah.
Okay? And so we want to encourage you to be proud in your faith, not proud in yourself, proud in your faith, and to say, this is so important to me.
And this is why we do Rock Solid Families, because we believe that God has been the greatest life change in our life, and we want to share that with people. We believe he's the answer. He is the hope of heaven, and he is the hope of the world. So we want to share that. So we hope you'll join us in doing that. Share the show, share your faith, share the difference he's made in your life, just like that young woman did and shared with me about what God has been doing. And so we hope that this has been an encouragement to you. Like I said, we'd love to walk alongside you if you feel stuck or ready to give up, because there is hope. There is great return on your investment. You just got to be investing in the right things.
Yeah, very good. So as we close things out today, we want to thank Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency for supporting Rock Solid Radio. We also want to remind you that at Rock Solid Families, our job is to help build families, relationships, and spiritual relationships with God. And so that's part of what we want to do. Please reach out and contact us if you need to. You can reach us at 812-576-7625. And by the way, our website is starting to get a whole new look to it. It's not released yet.
Not yet.
All right, it's under construction, but we got a cool new website coming that's just going to be easier to walk through, more user-friendly, so you can reach us there at rocksolidfamilies.org.
So thank you for listening to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Make it a great day. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. For help or more information about what you've heard on today's show, contact us at rocksolidfamilies.org or call us at 812-576-ROCK. That's 812-576-ROCK. Again, a huge thanks to our sponsors, Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency. If you have questions you'd like answered on our show, or you want to chime in on something you heard, go to our Facebook page, Rock Solid Families. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, and for my husband Merrill and I, thanks for tuning in to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time.